Welcome back to Agent O'Clock, our second live session. If you're here, you already know what time it is. It's time to geek out on AI agents. We have got an exciting one today. Asma's joining us to show off some seriously cool tool integrations, including a fitness chef agent that might just save your time next meal and, your macros. So this is live, it's casual, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat as we go. Let's jump in. Hi, Asma. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Thank you. And are you ready to jump in? Do you want to
Yes,
show us like the demos of?
of course. I'm really excited to be here, and let's get started.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Let's get started. Stages are all yours. And audience, if you're listening in, please feel free to chime in or sorry, send a message, and we would be happy to answer as many questions as we can.
Of course, awesome. Okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna share my screen.
Yeah.
This is what the Fitness Chef agent looks like on the UI. To give you a brief overview before we dive in and get into further details. So the Fitness Chef agent essentially is an agent that can take in your protein goals, and you provide it with like a list of ingredients that you have available at hand, and it could give you recipes based on the ingredients to provide to like optimize your macros and optimize your protein intake. So over here, based on the ingredients, we have the protein breakdown, and we have some recipes that have come up. So let's dive into what exactly is happening over here in the backend. So this is the Fitness Chef agent. I don't think you can see this. Let me.
I see the UI.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to share this. Okay, cool. Now this is the Fitness Chef agent. This agent is on the aiXplain platform. We've made it with the Agent Factory. The way this agent works is it has two tools associated with it. It has a scraper utility on the website, and what that does is that goes into this website, which is the Natural Medicines, the therapeuticresearch.com, and that has a chart that has the protein content of common foods. So every time you provide it with an ingredient, it's going to go into this website, scrape information about the ingredient and the protein macros, and it's going to return it back. We also have a recipe index, and what this recipe index is essentially is like a data source for our agent, and it's going to use that to map different ingredients and provide you with recipes. So let me also just walk you through what that looks like. Okay. So this is the recipe index. There is a Kaggle dataset on recipes that is extremely extensive, and that's what's been used as a data source over here. So we are adding these recipes into our index, and then you can ask it for different recipes, and it's going to provide you recipes by mapping different ingredients that are part of that of these recipes. We are using that as part of the Fitness Chef agent. So we have that over here as the recipe index, and we're just basically telling our agent that you have the protein goals that the user provides and the ingredients that the user provides, and you need to go to the website and get the protein intake, as well as use the recipe index to provide recipes with similar ingredients, but at the same time it also provides a unique recipe. So it's all going to go and use the ingredients to provide a recipe that's going to optimize your macros, and then also give you similar recipes using the index directly. So you have these two different aspects to it. So a unique one as well as known recipes essentially. And this is how the execution would actually look like. So if I have a bunch of ingredients that I've provided it with and my protein goal, it's going to give me a unique recipe where it's just going to tell me to cook some stuff. But then if you have additional ingredients available, it would also provide you you can also it's going to provide you with a bunch of other ingredients and a bunch of similar recipes that would accommodate the ingredients that you have if you have additional ones. Once you deploy your agent, when you're ready and you deploy your agent, you see it in your explain dashboard looking like this. Over agent is going to have an ID associated with it. And you go into the API integration tab, you should see a endpoint URL, which looks like this. And that URL basically is going to allow you to now integrate this across applications, across a bunch of applications. You also have some easy copy paste code for Perl, Python, and JavaScript, but you could easily adapt this to like different languages if you need to. So let me walk you through what we have for the integration of Fitness Chef. That is over here, which is our dashboard for Vercel. And Vercel is extremely it's a platform that allows you to deploy your applications, but also has a bunch of templates that you can use, and those are like ready to deploy. And you can connect it to your GitHub so that every time you push a change, it automatically deploys on their end, and they host this application for you. So the actual integration is over here. So like I showed the actual UI, that's how it looks. And I'm going to walk you through how this is designed as well. So we have the basic chat interface here, but we also have an ingredient section where you can pick and choose the ingredients that you have available for you. And I'm just going to select some random stuff, and we're going to see any recipe ideas that it can come up with. There's also a section about protein intake where you can put in your daily protein target and your weight and whether you're looking at muscle gain, maintenance, or fat loss. And it's also going to provide you recipes for this. So essentially what we've done here is we've taken one format that we had for the agent and made it slightly more flexible with different interfaces and different things that are happening. So here's the output and how that looks like. So it gave me a recipe with the ingredients I had at hand. And then you have the estimated protein intake, estimated protein from the recipe, as well as the unique recipe and other similar recipes as well. I'm also going to walk you through the blog really quickly. The logs really quickly. Yeah. So over here, you could actually go into Vercel's dashboard and look at your logs for the execution that we just had. So this is the one that we just executed where I provided it with recipes. It's going to check. I'm going to show you the backend in just a second. But basically what this does is it goes into, it checks if the API key exists, and it submits the query to the explain endpoint. And with the endpoint, when you post, you make a post request to the agent endpoint that I showed on the dashboard. It's going to give you a result, a request ID for the result, and you're going to poll this result URL with get request, and you wait for the results to kind of come through, and it keeps polling till you don't get the results. And once you get the results, it's going to have the status as success and completed as true. It's going to give you all the output that we are interested in. And this gets provided back to the user after it's cleaned and looks slightly more presentable. But that's essentially how that works. To go over the actual code and just show you the backend logic for the explain endpoint. Let me open this, which is which is the GitHub repository for this. So we have the API integration for the backend. So this is the request that I'm making for the agent endpoint, and I'm making a post request, and I provide it with my API key, and essentially we wait for the request ID result URL. And this request ID is what we need now use to make our GET request. So with this in mind, we make a GET request and we keep polling for the results like we saw in the logs. And essentially that keeps going on. And we have a bunch of error handling over here. So if this is like overwhelming to see, it's just error handling to see if the API fails or if you run out of, you have like a time limit exceeded or any of those issues. And then finally, you have the result that you send back to the user or the front end using agent response. And that's basically it. It's truly not that complicated, and the endpoint URL and the APIs make it really easy to integrate your explain assets and explain agents into any application.
That's pretty cool.
Mhm.
Um, I have a quick question before you move forward. You mentioned integrating the agent with the front end using Vercel. You showed us the UI and everything. So, what was that experience like? And like, what would you recommend to folks looking to build UI layers for their agents?
I think right now we're at a great place with UI as well because you have so many companies that are doing incredible things and powerful things with UI and front end.
Hmm.
Vercel in itself has all of these templates that you can just easily deploy. So it's like within 5 seconds, you could have a front end ready of some sort, and you can then adjust it and make it your own. With your own style and whatever you would like. This is obviously a very um, basic version of what this interface could look like, but it's all yours. You can choose to do whatever you want, and just the fact that they have something that you can deploy immediately is just makes it really convenient and easy to use. And I think that's something that is happening in the space right now, which I think is something that we should all use. And your explain agents can now become full-fledged applications really quickly, and that's just really fun to see the possibilities of what's possible with this.
Yeah, that's great. And the fitness chef agent that you showed us, honestly like it's a great example of goal-oriented personalization.
Mhm.
Can you walk us through how the agent uses both user fitness goals and ingredient availability to tailor its output? I think you probably might have showed, but just in case if there's anything else.
Right. So essentially, when you provide it with say your protein goal and the ingredients, it's going to go and it's going to use like I mentioned the a website for the protein breakdown, and it's going to use that as a source to understand not only how much protein is there per gram, but how much you would need to meet your protein goals, and it's going to optimize the ingredients according to that. Like obviously it does not make sense for you to chuck like 2 liters of milk just to meet your protein goals. So it is going to optimize to find the best ingredients that will meet this goal, and it's going to then give you a unique recipe around it. And I also understand that the unique recipe might not be the most appealing to you because you have only provided it with say 4 ingredients.
Hmm.
That's
Hmm.
when the similar recipes kind of come into play, because if you really want to, you could actually just if you have the ingredients for it, it makes sense to kind of expand it a little bit more. Maybe you don't have time and you could go in for the more simpler unique recipe, but if you have more time and you're ready to experiment and kind of take a bit of a leap, you could obviously go into like these more this other recipes that we use the recipe index for, and try something new, and kind of put something new on the table. And
Hmm.
um, some of them are more complicated and have more ingredients than the others, and that's also cool because you get to explore and have more options when you're eating. And I think when you provide it with what you also are opening yourself to a bunch of options that you could find your next favorite recipe with. So I
Hmm.
think that's pretty cool.
Nice. And so honestly, I'm not someone who goes on a diet. I'll tell you that. So, but if it gives me good recipes, I would be open to try for sure.
You should
Now,
you
so
should try
now,
these recipes.
yeah, you're right. So like, it's one of the common blockers with fitness planning is meal prep stress. Like,
Right.
yeah, meal prep, it's like, oh my God, I have to plan everything, buy groceries and whatnot. So, do you see this agent as something that could fit into a daily routine, like a morning check-in for meal ideas based on whatever you have in your fridge?
Absolutely. I feel like there are multiple aspects to this, because if you want to just clean out your fridge, you can just
Hmm.
copy the recipes that you're interested in, and it will give you the ones that you need to clean out your fridge. And even if you feel like you don't want to be going through any decision fatigue with recipe
Uh-huh.
planning and thinking about how your day and your recipes for the day or your meals for the day are going to look, you can just select a couple of things that you are interested in over here,
Hmm.
like just go into ingredients and pick out what you're interested in and wait for a recipe to come out with these ingredients. Alternatively, you could also go to protein intake and put in what your target is, and it's going to give you recipes as well. So you could put in your daily protein intake and say your weight, and I'm just going to see something here. and suppose I'm kind of trying to get muscle gain as my protein, as my fitness goal, it's going to give
Hmm.
you a bunch of recipes around that as well. So you could then use the recipes that are provided. Like over here, it said that you can use chicken breast and almonds to kind of make a recipe, and that's I mean, obviously, like, you obviously would need to add some spices and stuff, but this is pretty cool because you can do this and you can have this and meet your protein goals, and you can
Hmm.
go and get your ingredients based on what you are providing and what your aim is, and have your daily meal planning kind of time cut in half. So maybe you don't plan
Hmm.
it anymore and you just have to work on prepping and cooking and those aspects. And that's also taking a bit of decision fatigue away from you as a
I
user.
bet. I mean,
Mhm.
taking decision fatigue, that's my goal, I think. Um, so do you think like do you have the feature where it suggests different, I don't know, the daily protein target or weight based on the sex of the person? Do you think that?
Not really, because I feel like it's such a unique thing for every person, is that
Hmm.
what everyone's bodies are different, and the way we react to the way our body holds weight and our
Hmm.
protein intake that we need to survive on a daily basis based on our lifestyles is different. So
Hmm.
I don't have that integrated yet, or I don't think I plan on, only because I feel like that shouldn't be something to stop you from eating the
Fair
things
enough.
and having healthy macros.
That's a good perspective to look at. And now looking ahead, how do you see the role of the tool integration? I'm getting technical now. So
Mhm.
like how do you see the role of tool integration evolving in agent design, especially for, fitness or wellness focused use cases?
Absolutely. That's a great question. For me, I think I like to think about these tools evolving into more deeply integrated and more customizable and personalized action forward applications. So think about how can your recipes be catered to things like your wellness stats or your health
Hmm.
stats, and the kind of workouts you do, or those kind of things, to now then curate your recipes or your the kind of food you eat around that. And that I think is
Hmm.
really cool. So if we have this cross functionality based agents that use these different stats and different metrics that we have available to plug in to give you updated information on the fly about what you need, and maybe something that you can add. If you didn't sleep well last night, maybe we add a little bit of I don't know what you eat when you're like a little less. So if you're like sleep deprived, maybe we had some ingredients that can help you go to sleep earlier tonight. And
Yeah.
those are kind of things that I'm really excited to see in the space, and I think that's really cool.
Nice, nice. Now, speaking of technical side of this, which LLM did you use again?
This uses GPT-4o.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that was just what kind of came to be.
okay.
But there were a bunch of options that you could use.
I bet, I bet. I would be curious to see like what are the other like the open source models like Llama family, and then there are a bunch of others. If they would have different kind of, I don't know, output or the quality of output, that's something I'd be very curious to
Yeah, I
see.
think it's a great aspect of building these agents, so that you get to experiment so much with them and
Hmm.
see the way the outputs shift and what kind of um, caters to you more.
Right. And this was a team agent, right? Multi-agent
No,
or
this is a single one. Yeah.
okay, okay. Do you think like a single agent sufficed, or do you see like more multi-agent use cases for this?
I think in this case, a single agent was enough, but I could see how if you could integrate a bunch of different elements into this, you could experiment more with a team agent architecture to just see the kind of outputs that you get.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And now I have my favorite question. What were the challenges you faced? Because every time when it comes to like, tool integration, when there is like other tools have their APIs or something else to, that might stop you from integrating it or onboarding it on for your agent, were there any challenges with Vercel or any other tools?
I think for essentially not on the scraper utility worked really well for the website
Mhm.
because it is a static page, so those kind of
Right.
get easier to work with when you're scraping.
Mhm.
The index also was because we had more control over it with the CSVs and you importing the data. That was also a pretty seamless experience.
Mhm.
With Vercel, it was initially it started out with just figuring out the deployment and stuff was a little bit of just me working around it. But once you
Mhm.
kind of get through it, it gets really easy and seamless. And the flow kind of, once the flow is in progress, it kind of just like goes really well.
Mhm.
Also, they have a really powerful dev tool in case they have like for debugging, they have their own chatbot, which is really helpful because it kind of really helps you with any issues that you might be facing. So overall, this was a really great experience in building this fitness chef agent.
Nice. And you had to make an account on Vercel, right, to onboard it on for your agent?
Yes, yes, and they do have a free tier, so you don't even need to like worry about things like that.
Oh, that's great. And so, on average, if you remember, like how much time did you take to build this agent? I know this is a single agent, so I'm curious. Was it
Um,
faster or something else?
I think it was relatively fast. I don't think it took too long. Just I think one aspect for agent building that is that could potentially take a little longer is the engineering of the prompt and how you're pacing the instructions and putting in how much details you want to put in. And I think that is the only thing that you need to keep tweaking. And even that, once you kind of hit the gold mine, it kind of it works. So
Yeah.
this one was relatively quick because the breakdown was really concise. So then once you have like a really nice structure for your instructions, everything kind of goes smooth sailing. So in that aspect, it didn't take too long. Even the versatile integration was pretty. Once you figure it out and you take some time to kind of go over documentation, it
Mhm.
makes sense and it's pretty fast.
Nice. So now I'll pause because I had way too many questions. But if our audience, if anybody of you watching on LinkedIn or YouTube, if you have any question, please feel free to share. Asma will be able to answer them as soon as you ask. Otherwise, I can keep going. This
Mhm.
thing is very interesting. Okay. Well, in the meantime, while the audience asks questions, could you maybe go back to the code? I'm curious about what the prompt looked like because I know prompt engineering plays a very important role in having the agent do right.
Yeah, of course.
So,
I think that is also like a really interesting thing because you learn so much when you're providing it with input and
mhm,
when you see something not work and then you're like, oh, this made sense to me, but I see why that would not make sense to
yeah.
the agent when you kind of provide instructions that are not too clear. So over here, we have the description, which is basically what you see on the dashboard.
Mhm,
And this kind of is just what you can see to kind of get understand what your agent's doing when you kind of come back to it later in your dashboard.
mhm,
So over here, we've told it that it's a nutritionist and it's attempting to combine ingredients based on a person's protein needs. And that it's going to receive a protein code and list of ingredients, and then it can use the scrape tool to analyze this table. And if it doesn't know a person's ingredient protein content, it makes an educated guess. And I think that was another tweak that needed to be added in because when it doesn't have the protein intake, it would just otherwise leave it blank. And I think having these slight instruction updates is really helpful in changing the way your output looks.
mhm. Oh, so there is a question.
Mhm.
I'm gonna pause. So someone on LinkedIn is asking, can you please tell us how the tool integration is done? So they have three sub questions. What is considered a tool in the agent's architecture?
Mhm. Okay. Okay, let's start with that. Okay, so the way tool integration works is actually really simple. So over here for explain, what we have is once you create an agent, you have a list of tools that you can add, and you just uh, create a model tool with the tool ID. And the way you get the tool ID is that if you go to our Discover dashboard and you go to Discover, you can look
Uh,
at a bunch of different
Asma, are
utilities.
you showing the collab or some other screen?
I'm showing another screen. Thank you. Um, Yes. Okay. So if you kind of look at our Discover platform, you can you have a bunch of different models that we have, and you can filter this by the task that you're planning, the function that you're trying to achieve, or you can also go into utilities, and we have a bunch of utilities that you could use. What I have used is the Scrape website tool, and you just have to copy the ID here and bring it into your um, you have to bring it into your agent, and you can either just provide the tool here, and you just basically provide the tool here and then just call the ID over here, and you can even directly call the ID, that's fine. But essentially that's how that works. And once you have these tools from as models from the Explain platform, you could
Mhm.
also create your own tools and
Could
have your
you,
own.
sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you, could you zoom in, please?
Yes. Is that good?
Yep.
Perfect. And you can basically have different types. So we also have the index that we did. I showed it towards the beginning. And you have an ID for the index, and you can use that and create that as like a data source for your agent. And you can add a bunch of tools. So you can also have you have the option of bringing your own code and having it as a utility. So if you're interested in integrating an API, you can actually get your external APIs and onboard them as utility tools and then call them with your agents. And over here you can see that the LLM is GPT 4o. And with just these couple of variables and these couple of prompts that you put in, you have a completely functional agent ready. And it's pretty simple that way. Is that does that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Um, Now, the second question Amro has is how does the agent decide when to use a tool versus responding on its own? Ah, that's a very good question.
Mhm. Yeah. So over here we have the I think this is architecture diagram here, which is going to explain that. So when you provide your protein goal and ingredients, the LLM that we have, which is GPT-4o, it's going to provide you with it's going to generate unique recipe suggestions based on your ingredients and protein goal. But then you also have the option. It also has these tools available to it, which then refers to for data for the recipe as data for the recipe index, as
Mhm,
well as it refers to this scraper tool to get the protein data from the web page that we provide. So essentially, that's what it's doing. It's taking the user query. We using the LLM to we use the LLM to provide the output back to the user, but as well as going to use these tools to then get information or data back.
mhm. And are these tools documented?
Yeah. Sorry. By documented, you mean information available about them?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So if you go to our Discover platform, you will see with the tools. So when you search for utilities, when you click on a card for the utility, you're going to see um, the name of the tool, the ID. You also
Mhm,
see information about the vendor who
mhm,
developed it, and the price per request. You also would see a short description about what the tool is capable of doing and how it would work. You also have the option of try it out, where you
mhm,
can experiment with it and see if it kind of fits into your needs. You also don't actually need to, from the get go, get it integrated. If you want to try
mhm.
it out, you can just copy one of these code snippets from our API integration for single models, and you can actually go and just experiment and see if this works for your use case before you integrate it as part of your agent architecture. We also have a documentation tab, so you can actually click on that and read specific documentation about these tools.
Okay. And I think you probably in answered this question, but I'll still ask, how are the tools represented or defined in the system? For instance, a schema or API specifications or anything else?
Usually when you have your own utilities that you onboard, is that like a good okay, I'm gonna attempt to answer this from what I understand from the question. Is that when you have your own utilities, you would provide it with what a description of what it does, as
Mhm,
well as the kind of input and output that you would expect, or like an example use case. And the LLM uses that as, and also the names of the variables and things like that, to then make an kind of use that as a way to understand what the utility would do and how it should use it. So again, an aspect of how the way you prompt it or the way you describe things is very important in the agent architecture.
Okay. And I think, sorry, there is some network lag going on between LinkedIn and our chat. So this question might be something you answered before, or were talking about it before. Noor is asking, do you mean that it always use the tools first? I think she was asking something around the agent question. But yeah.
Yeah, so I think it also is, you can again have the instructions kind of really focus on the fact that you are interested in the tools, and you can specify the tool names in your instructions to kind of ensure a more stricter flow into the tools, and it would use the tools as if you would want it to as the first source of information. Like over here, even though it uses the tools, especially the scraper, to get a protein intake information
Mhm.
directly.
Okay, cool. Oh, there were many good questions. Please
Great.
keep them coming if you guys have some more questions. We are almost on time, but we can take one or two more questions if you have. Sorry, I have to keep refreshing. I don't know what's going on with LinkedIn.
I think there's a bit of a, just the lag with everything.
Yeah, yeah,
Fine.
yeah. But honestly, yeah, this agent was pretty cool. I love the UI and especially the Vercel integration. I'm gonna definitely give it a try
Mhm.
because I build agents. It's either in Cursor or a Colab notebook, and people usually like generally like to see like an end-to-end thing. And of course, you give a UI, not everybody gives much attention to what's going on behind the curtains. So,
It's like a
seeing,
peek inside.
sorry, go ahead.
This is like a nice peek inside these curtains.
Exactly, yeah. No, it's very good to see the front end attached to the agent and to realize that, that's the agent working behind the curtain. So it's
Right. And I also
pretty
feel
good.
like whenever you have a UI, it also kind of extends what you think is possible with this agent. Because initially,
Hmm.
while you only think about something like just having the chat with the protein
Hmm.
intake, and this we have now extended it to just ingredients and just
Nice.
the protein intake and your weight. And I think that's fun, like the you pushing the boundaries of what you have already
Hmm.
defined.
That's nice, very nice. So non-fitness chef question. What's the next agent that you're working on?
I just made a LinkedIn one. So there's a LinkedIn posting agent that I've been working on. I also have like a car scraping, so it goes to different websites and scrapes data. And I'm also really excited about working on analytics. So I have a bunch of ideas. And let's see
Nice.
how they kind of reach fruition.
Awesome. And you're onboarding like the external tools or APIs for this as well?
Yes, so a lot of these do use external APIs, and
Hmm.
it's always really interesting to see how those work, because a lot of those are not in your direct control, and the way these agents talk to these APIs is really interesting.
Okay, now one last question before I let you go, and let my audience go as well, our audience. So, how many tools can you onboard, and how many tools is too much? Too many tools.
Um, I think for me, the way I like to think about it is that how much can you streamline the workflow and how much do you really
Mhm.
need? Like you can obviously onboard like around like 8, 10 tools, but do you need the 10 tools? Like is
Yeah.
that a question to ask yourself, like do you need those 10 tools? I think a streamlined workflow to just use what you need is always something to keep in mind, just to kind of make sure you're not overclouding it and not
Mhm.
getting overwhelmed with the amount of stuff you have integrated into it. But I have had agents with 5, 6 tools that work great. Even
Oh, wow.
single agent architecture, even if you're talking about like a team agent architecture, you can have multiple agents and multiple tools, and they work well. But it always just it makes sense to be more mindful of the amount of tools you add, just to keep your workflow tight.
Mhm. Nice. Very cool. Great. Well, this was a great session, and thank you, everybody who asked lots of questions. That was very nice discussion, and thanks, Asma, for showing this cool agent of yours.
Thank you
Looking
so
forward to
much.
the next ones.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone for